Welcome everyone to a very special edition of Slog Fest World T20. I'm Shivani Gupta and proud to be joined by former Australian captain and an absolute legend, Steve Waugh, with me in the studios. Steve, welcome to India and welcome to our studios.
Thanks, it's great to be here.
Absolutely. You can call in on our numbers flashing on the screen and you can ask your questions to Steve Waugh. Everything you want to know about Australia, India, or even that upcoming match against Pakistan. Fire in those questions in the next half hour. But Steve, I hear you're making your debut of sorts, isn't it, in a television studio? You've never done this before.
That's right. People find that hard to believe. It's been 10 years since I've retired, but I've never done any work in this studio. I've never done any commentary. So this is my debut on the rookie today.
So let's go easy on Steve today. Yeah?
For sure.
No bouncers today from the viewers. But let me kickstart this conversation with Steve Waugh, one of Australia's greatest, here in the studios with us.
Yeah.
Steve, what do you make of the World T20 and the favourites tag that has been assigned to India, especially in the light of the defeat they had against New Zealand?
Yeah, well, obviously India, I think that may have changed in the last couple of days. India were hot favourites from most analysts and most experts picking their choice, but after losing the first match, that makes it a really difficult way to make forward for India. This World Cup is spectacular. India is a home of cricket, particularly for T20.
Yeah.
It's exciting for all people around the world. For Australia, it's a great opportunity. We've never won the T20 World Cup in 5
That's
attempts.
That's the one trophy missing from Australia.
Exactly right. They're number one in one-day cricket, number one in Test cricket. T20 is the missing piece, and for them, this is a great opportunity.
I will come to why that trophy is missing from Australia's cabinet. Perhaps there are reasons that Steve can tell us. But we have our first caller on the line. Gopal is calling in from Pune. Gopal, fire in your question.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Hello.
I have two questions for Steve Waugh.
Yes.
Hello. I have two questions for Steve Waugh.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yes.
Australia is number one in Test, and they are also number one in ODIs. How come they are not paying enough attention to getting a World Cup in T20s? And my second question.
Yes, go ahead.
And my second question.
Yes.
ICC events, the pitches are prepared by the ICC management. And how come the Nagpur pitch was such a turner that everybody got surprised?
All right.
Yeah.
So I think the first question is what I wanted to ask you as well, Steve. Why is it that there's so much resistance to playing more T20 in Australia and they don't concentrate on the format enough?
Yeah, look, I don't think it's a resistance to play T20, but they had a focus on getting back to the top in Test cricket, particularly after we lost the Ashes a couple of years ago. There was a review done into Australian cricket in the Argus called the Argus Review. I was part of that. They really wanted to focus on getting Test cricket right. One-day cricket was sort of a part of that. And T20, to some regards, was sort of forgotten a bit.
It was left out.
Not so much left out, but it wasn't the priority. So they've got back to the top in both those other formats. I know Steve Smith now says it's a priority for Australia to play better T20 cricket. The last couple of years, we've had a lot of players coming in and out of the side. I think it's been a bit disjointed. Even the Australian public aren't sure who's been playing for Australia. That hasn't led to continuity in the side, and I think that's probably let the players down. They're not sure even themselves who their best 11 is. But they've got no excuses coming up over the next couple of weeks. They've got a really good squad. They've been together for a while, and this is the opportunity to rectify that problem.
But were you surprised, like everybody else, with the pitch at Nagpur, and especially in an ICC event, a global event?
Look, Nagpur over the years traditionally has been known as a turning pitch. I think Australia have had some issues there in the past. Having said that, I think if you ask the Indian players, would they mind playing on a turning pitch, they would have said that shouldn't be a problem because they play on that. You know, when they're young kids growing up, they play first-class cricket, they play international cricket. I don't think that's an excuse. I think they were caught out by the quality of the New Zealand bowling the other night. Maybe they're a little bit complacent, although having said that, they haven't beaten New Zealand in a T20, so there's no reason for that as well. It may be just one of those games where things don't go right, it all goes bad on the one given day, and you've just got to forget about that and get on with the next one.
To be fair, MS Dhoni didn't complain about the pitch. He said his batsman didn't apply himself, but the viewers and even Saurav Ganguly on our show felt that this wasn't a pitch fit for a T20 World Cup match. We have our next caller on the line. MK is calling in from Kashmir. MK, go ahead and be quick, please.
Great. Yeah, great. Yes. Yes, great. I'm very much fortunate enough to talk to Steve Waugh.
Yes.
Steve Waugh
Hi.
is no doubt the greatest and no doubt the finest captain I've seen on the television and heard his captaincy and seen his captaincy. He's as cool as a cucumber, like Mr. Dhoni to some extent. But I want to speak, Mr. Steve Waugh, sir.
Yes.
I can speak. I was watching Australian and England team matches right from my kids, from 7th, 8th onwards, because I happen to be myself a university cricketer from Kashmir. But I was speaking that Keith Stackpole, Graham McKenzie, Ian Chappell, Douglas Walters, they were the greatest of Australian cricketers. I was watching at that time in the radio stations, and it was looking very nice. Those Keith Stackpole was my favorite, and Graham McKenzie. But you are not less than your brother Mark, who was also is the greatest cricketers of the time. But while playing with Mike Dennis of England and Dennis Emmons from England, Luckhurst, I liked your teams, that fight on the teams. That was very nice. But I want to say
right.
the technical point of view, Mr. Rob, that today's team is a technical team playing cricket. They are technically sound. But what about that, the natural playing of those times? What is the difference you've seen? That times and today's times, but times have changed. And
right.
thank you, Mr. It's very
Thank
nice
you very
to
much.
talk
That's
to
a
Mr.
long question. Yes, thank you.
So basically, he wants to know why the difference in perhaps the natural talent or the quality of players in your time and today's time. Do you see any difference?
Look, cricket has evolved over, even since I've retired, the game has changed enormously, and a big impact has been the 2020 game, where there's been all these fantastic shots that have been invented. Bowlers have had to find different variations. I think what I would say, though, any great player in this current era would be a great player in previous eras, and vice versa. So every era has fantastic players who would have adapted to the different conditions and different formats of the game. I think our side, I was lucky to captain a fantastic team. Right now, I think Australia's got a really nice team as well. But great players in any era would transfer and do well in previous eras as well.
I will ask you a little bit about Virat Kohli as well.
Sure.
Everyone rates him very highly. What do you make of him if we compare him, let's say, to Sachin Tendulkar, someone you've seen a lot in battle on the field? But we have our next caller on the line as well. Ayush is calling in from Delhi.
Hello.
Go
Hello.
ahead, please.
Yeah, first of all, I would like to say good afternoon to Steve Waugh and welcome
Good
to
afternoon.
India. And I just wanted to ask that this T20 World Cup, I believe is a World Cup for the people who are making a comeback, be it Australia, who've never won a T20 World Cup, or Indian team who've got Yuvraj Singh. So who do you think is currently the best T20 batsman and the bowler, and which team do they figure in?
I think the best T20 batsman right now, in my mind, is Virat Kohli. His record is outstanding. I mean, he averages over 50 in 2020 cricket with an amazing strike rate. He showed the quality of player he was recently in Australia, where he won basically the games for his country by himself. He has that fierce determination about whenever he walks out. I see a lot of Tendulkar in him when he walks to the crease. He realises he's got the hopes of a nation on his shoulder, but he embraces that and he wants that, and he plays better because of that pressure. So very few people can do that. He's definitely capable of it, and if India are to win this T20 World Cup, Virat Kohli has got to score a lot of runs.
And Virat Kohli, in India, we like to say that he's a very Aussie cricketer. He's in your face, he's aggressive, something that Australians are known for. Do you like that about him?
I do like that about him, yeah, and you're right, he does remind me a lot of an Australian type player.
Yeah.
And I think over the years, the Indian players have played in a different sort of manner, and they've learnt to play in that aggressive frame of mind. Perhaps when I first started playing against India, it was a little bit different. But the modern Indian cricketer, they've been exposed to cricketers all around the world through the IPL, and they've taken bits and pieces from other countries. And I think he is the ultimate cricketer. The only one thing I'd say about Virat Kohli, the question mark I've got with him is under intense pressure, when things get a bit heated, can he control his emotions? Because as a captain, your team reflects the way you are, and if you're a little bit out of control, then the rest of the team can be a bit unsettled. So for him, the question in my mind is, under extreme pressure, when it gets really tough, can he concentrate and can he keep things under control?
Let me shift from T20 cricket for just a bit because we're talking about Virat Kohli. He debuted as a Test captain in Australia when MS Dhoni announced his sudden retirement while the tour down under. What did you make of him as a captain in Test cricket? Because India played good cricket even in the next few Tests, even though they didn't win the series.
Yeah, look, he's had the benefit of playing under MS Dhoni, who I think was a fantastic captain for India because he was very calm. He never gave too much away on the outside. He always internalised it. He may have been panicking or not happy about things, but he never really showed it. He was quite a simple captain. He led by his actions, not so much his words. And I think Virat Kohli has probably taken the best of that and kept it to himself and then put his own style upon the captaincy. He was ready for that's the main thing as a captain. You've got to be ready to captain your country. You've got to want that responsibility. And number one, your game has got to be in good shape. And he ticked all those boxes. And the fact is, he loves playing against Australia. He loved those aggressive crowds. And he likes competing. So it was probably the perfect place for him to start his captaincy career.
That's right. Maybe we'll see more installments of Rohit versus Warner and Virat versus somebody else on the pitch when India and Australia face off. Satish is calling in from Delhi. Satish, go ahead.
Hello, Steve. Welcome to India. This is Shitaj from New Delhi. I have two questions for you. Where do you see Australia in the current tournament, especially having won the tournament against South Africa? My second question is, Indian tracks being spinning tracks, who do you place your bet on as far as spin is concerned in Australia?
Where do you rate Australia and who's the best player of spin in the Australian lineup? I think that's what he asked.
I rate Australia as probably the best batting side here at the T20 World Cup. I think we've got some great options, a lot of IPL experience. The top of the order, Watson, I think, is a key player for us. He's done it a number of times playing over here. He's now not playing Test cricket. He's even said that has made him a more relaxed player. He lets his talent speak for his cricket. He's a key player. David Warner is a fantastic batsman. Aaron Finch has got an excellent one-day record, probably the best T20 record of any Australian batsman. And then you've got Steve Smith, who is a world-class player, yet to make his mark in T20, but this is his great opportunity. And then you've got Glenn Maxwell, who is the X-factor, who can win a game from nowhere, plus the other all-rounders. So I think our batting is excellent. The best player of spin bowling, I would say, is probably Steve Smith. He's a natural player of spin. So if Australia are to succeed in this World Cup, he's got to have a good tournament. And he's the type of player who, even if he's out of form, he'll find a way to score runs. He's very determined. He's very street smart. I think I've never seen a batsman hit the gaps as well as he does. He's probably the best gap hitter of any batsman I've ever seen. So
but did I hear you say that Australia is the best batting lineup in this tournament, ahead of India?
I think so, yeah. I think we have potentially the best batting lineup. India is, of course, very good, but you've seen already that things can go and miss any one day. I mean, India being bowled for 79 was totally unpredictable. I think our bowling is probably our weak link in this Australian side. A little bit inexperienced. We're not quite sure who's going to finish off the innings. Our spinners are a bit of an unknown quantity. But having said that, the captain has got a lot of faith in people like Zampa. I think Ashton Agar is a real talent. Glenn Maxwell, to me, is a good spinner, but his IPL record isn't great as a bowler. He hasn't taken very many wickets, so there is a question mark over his bowling in India.
I will come back to the Australian squad in just a bit, but Prashant is calling in from Ghaziabad. Prashant, go ahead.
Yes, sir, Steve Waugh, it's an honor to talk to you, sir. And I thank you for making my day memorable, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, regarding the batsmen that you told, regarding if it's Maxwell or Steve Smith or Warner, they have a very great experience in playing IPL cricket, T20 cricket in India. So, but regarding the bowlers we see in the Australian side, John Hastings and a lot of bowlers, they are pretty inexperienced and they are not so experienced to play that is T20 cricket in India. So, what do you like to suggest to them?
Yeah, look, that's a fair call. I think our bowling is a bit inexperienced. These days, that's not so much of an issue about they haven't played a lot in India because the Indian pitches generally these days are very uniform in nature. They're good for batting. They may be a little bit slower and lower, but as a general rule, they're not too much different to pitches anywhere else in the world. Australia, I think, will miss Mitchell Starc. He has been our spearhead, probably the best bowler in our attack. He's missing that. Is a little bit of a negative for us, although it gives opportunities to other bowlers. Hazelwood has had a great Australian summer. I'm not sure he's suited to T20 as much as the other formats of the game. We've got all-rounders in Watson and Faulkner. But the one I think who's flown under the radar and may have a big impact in this tournament is Andrew Tye. I think he's got the most variation of any Australian bowlers. I don't think Indian spectators would have seen much about him, so that could also be a bonus that the other players don't know a lot about his game.
Yeah.
If he has the confidence and he's comfortable playing at this level, I think he could have a World Cup, and a good World Cup, and surprise a few people.
All right, so the Indians should watch out for Andrew Tye, isn't it? They must be doing some sort of preparation for him, as most teams do for the other teams. We have Dinesh on the line from Delhi. Go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon. Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Dinesh.
Yeah, good afternoon, ma'am. First, I would like to, welcome Mr. Steve Waugh to India.
Thank you.
And my question for Steve Waugh is, who is the toughest bowler you have ever faced in your cricket career, and who are the 4 semi-finalists you want to see in the World Cup? And if you would have been the coach of a Pakistan, what you would have expect from the guys?
Well, that's a lot of questions.
3 questions there, lots of questions there. But what about the first one, the toughest bowler you faced in your career?
Look, that's straight away one name pops into my head, and that's Curtly Ambrose.
Yeah.
He was an amazing bowler. He was physically very intimidating. He was always in your face, 6'7". He'd just stare at you. He wouldn't say anything, which is probably the best form of sledging, because as a batsman, I didn't know what he was thinking. Was he trying to get me out? Was he trying to physically hurt me? I wasn't sure. He was capable of doing both. So he's definitely up there. Wasim Akram was a great bowler. Abdul Qadir, I think, was a fantastic spinner when I first started. I had no idea how picking is wrong, and so that was a mystery to me. They're the names that stand out. Obviously, Malcolm Marshall was a great bowler, but he was sort of towards the end of his career when I first played him. And then you got people like Waqar Yunus, Alan Donald, Courtney Walsh. It's really hard to pick.
But Ambrose is at the top of your list.
Ambrose is number 1, yeah.
I met Ambrose during the 2015 World Cup in Australia, and despite, apart from his stature, he was like the sweetest, kindest man you met. Not perhaps the intimidation you felt when I met him.
I wish we would have known when we were playing against him, because I thought he was just trying to hurt me all the time. But after the games, look, he's a really good fella. We had our run-ins, and we were both very passionate about playing for our teams. But at the end of the day, I totally respected him as a player and a person.
Absolutely. Those were good times, isn't it? We need to see those kind of bowlers again in world cricket, especially in Test cricket. But we are here to talk T20 cricket with Steve Waugh. We're going to slip into our first break and be back with lots more. So keep coming with those questions. Stay tuned. Steve Waugh, Australian legend, in the studios with us. He'll be joining our World T20 panel from here on. And it's a great pleasure, Steve, to have you right here in Delhi. We've had a lot of calls, but let me now talk about the Indian team.
Sure.
What do you make of the Indian playing 11? There have been question marks, at least questions raised on Yuvraj Singh. We also have Harbhajan Singh sitting on the bench almost for the last 2 months. What do you make of the Indian makeup?
Look, I guess they're both reasonably controversial decisions. These guys have been fantastic players for India over a long period of time. Are they relevant to the T20 game right now? Because it seems to be a young person's sport with power, athleticism. I think they're both there as a backup in case things don't go quite right. Harbhajan hasn't played, I don't think, a lot recently. He didn't play much in Australia. So he must be wondering what his role is in the team. Perhaps I'll throw him in against Australia, because he's got a great record against Australia. I know that personally, that he dominated the 2001 series, which we've been trying to forget for the last 10 years.
And we'll try not to let that happen.
Yuvraj is an interesting selection. He's capable of playing at match-winning innings, but it seems to be happening less and less as he gets older. So I think they're both selections which would have been borderline selections up against younger players, but I guess maybe the captain wanted some experience in his squad.
There's also been questions raised on just why Ajinkya Rahane, who's done really well recently, is still sitting on the bench.
Yeah, look, for me, he's an exceptional player. I first saw him play a Lord's Test match. He got 100, and I thought I was watching Sachin Tendulkar bat. He's got a very similar technique. He's got a small back lift. He's got a really nice temperament. He's got great match awareness, and he seems to handle pressure situations. And he's got a very good technique. So I'm very surprised that he didn't play in the first match. And I think for India's benefit, he should be in that team.
they don't quite consider him a T20 player. Perhaps that's what's going against him. In the past, Dhoni has also commented that he's not very happy with his running between the wickets. That became all the furore as well. But we have our next caller on the line from Srinagar. Go ahead.
Hi, Steve Waugh.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Meet from Srinagar, and I have two questions for you, sir.
Yep.
Yes.
My first question is to you is that what do you make of the current Australian 11 who is lacking the experience of Mitchell Starc, Patrick Cummins and many other bowlers? And my second question to you is that who are your 4 finalists of the T20 World Cup? And
Right,
sir, it's an honor to talk to you.
Yes.
I think you've mentioned, we've talked about the Australian team in detail. So are you willing to hazard a guess on the 4 semi-finalists now?
Look, the 4 semi-finalists, I think if anyone believes they know the 4 semi-finalists, they're Nostradamus, because I really can't. It's very hard to decide who's going to be the top 4, particularly after India lost the first match. I mean, that really throws that group wide open. I think Pakistan are definitely got an opportunity. New Zealand are a very good side. The pressure is on Australia as well. So any one of those 4 sides could make it through. I think before the tournament started, I would have probably said India and Australia. On the other side, I think South Africa has got lots of experience. AB de Villiers is probably the best T20 player in the world. If he leads the way and has a good tournament, they're definitely going to be there. West Indies, we saw last night, if Chris Gayle has a good tournament, they can win the tournament. If Chris Gayle doesn't score runs, they'll miss out on the semi-finals. It's as simple as that. I actually like to look at the England side with Trevor Bayliss. I think he's an excellent coach. He somehow gets players to perform above their potential. He gets sides playing as a unit. I think Adil Rashid, if the wicket is turning, he'll have an impact. Ben Stokes is a world-class all-rounder. They've got some exciting players. So I think England are the team that potentially could do well, but they've got to improve on last night's performance.
Absolutely. Well, not many teams can do much when they're hit by the Gale storm, can they? Because he just stands and delivers. The pitch at Wankhede was also pretty good for batting, so that helped the West Indians. We have our next caller calling in from Delhi, I believe. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Hello.
We have Raj from Hyderabad. Go ahead.
Yeah, hello, Steve. Very good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I hope you had sumptuous lunch.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, good. Yes, it's my question, to you, Steve. When you played in a World Cup in '99, against South Africa, when Lance Klusener was batting, what was in the back of your mind?
I wish I wasn't captain. That was in the back of my mind because he was unstoppable, man. That guy had the greatest World Cup that you could possibly have, and he just hit every ball in the middle. So in the end, the only ball he missed hit was the ball that we ended up somehow getting a tie out of that semi-final. So he was incredible. I mean, he really transformed the way one-day cricket and T20 is played by getting his front leg out of the road, freeing his arms, and you see all players doing that now. But he was the first guy that really played that way, and the power that he hit the ball with was we hadn't seen it before, and we didn't know how to control it. And at the end of the day, we got lucky because he mishit one ball, which enabled us to get a tie to get through to the final.
Well, but when we do talk about South Africa, why is it that they fail to win the big trophies? I mean, this question has been confounding South Africans and world cricket because they have such a brilliant side and have had for so many years in the shorter format.
Look, it is a hard question to answer. In my mind, when I played against South Africa, I thought their one weakness was that they were a little bit regimented in some ways. They seemed to be a bit inflexible, which meant in times under extreme pressure, they didn't have a plan B, they couldn't improvise, and they couldn't relax in those situations. And we felt when it got really tight that we had a slight advantage over them in regards that we could somehow find a way to win the game. And perhaps they put so much pressure on themselves, they really want to win a big tournament, and sometimes you can want things too much. This tournament, they've got to go in with a relaxed mindset, knowing they've got the players to win it. Don't focus too much on the overall outcome. Let's just keep it really simple and play the game in front of us.
Absolutely. They do have ABD, the most destructive batsman in this format, perhaps in the world. And, you know, between him and Virat Kohli, there's a battle for the best batsman in the World Cup. We'll slip into a very short break. We'll be back with Steve Waugh. Keep those questions coming. Very little time left. Our phone lines are open. Steve Waugh, Australian legend, former captain, with us in our studios. Talking about the Slogfest World T20 that so far has taken everyone by surprise, largely because of India's defeat to New Zealand on a turning wicket in home conditions. You know, big favourites coming in but brought down to earth. Everybody wants to know just what New Zealand can do in this tournament, because like we were talking in our previous segment, like South Africa, they haven't had that one big title too, and they really want to get that World Cup trophy. They were in the World Cup final in Australia, but missed out. What do you make of New Zealand?
Look, I think we've already seen the benefits of the Brendan McCullum era. He's left a legacy where New Zealand believe they can beat anyone in any situation. And that's something they haven't, I don't think, thought about for the previous 20 years. So in Kane Williamson, they've got a fantastic cricketer with a good cricket brain. They seem to be a side that really enjoys each other's company. They feed off each other. They play in a really good spirit. They play without fear and without hesitation. And that's two things you can't have in 2020 cricket. So to me, they've already shown they're capable of beating anyone. And getting confidence, beating India, that was a huge victory for New Zealand. No doubt they'll get a lot from that. And they'll believe they can beat anyone else in this tournament. So there's no reason why they can't go all the way. And perhaps this is their time. And if they do win it, then you can really look back and say thank you to Brendan McCullum, because he gave them belief that they were good enough to play against anyone.
Well, everyone in India was disappointed that Brendan McCullum decided to call it quits before this World T20. It was a surprising decision as well, because they could have really used him in Indian conditions. Remember, he was the first centurion in the IPL. But we have our next caller on the line. Umar is calling in from Delhi. Go ahead.
Hi, Steve. Very good afternoon to you.
Thank you.
It's an pleasure and honor talking to you, because we have been grown up watching the living legend, you as well as your brother, Mark Waugh. And I consider myself a very lucky person, because three times my call got disconnected, and fourth time I'm talking to you. Thanks to India Today News Channel.
You have a question?
Yes, I have a question. Steve, whom do you think is going to win this cup? Because now you have the Pakistan, an unpredictable team becoming more unpredictable. And you have the New Zealand as well in the lineup. So whom do you think? I won't ask you about Australia, because everyone is asking you about Australia. So I'm going to come straight to the point. Who is going to win this cup, according to you?
Yes, you better
look, my straight answer is I don't really know who is going to win the cup right now. I think it's so hard to predict. And
especially in this format, isn't it?
Yeah, this format, on any given day, anyone can produce a match-winning innings or a match-winning spell. And again, someone like Chris Gayle, if he has individually a good World Cup, then he can win it for his side. So they just need one or two key players to have a fantastic series. And any team is capable of winning this T20 World Cup. Australia really want to win this competition. It's something that's missing from the trophy cabinet. Again, the question mark is on their bowling. New Zealand, you've already seen, are a very competent all-round side. India, I still think, are the favourites, and this may have been a wake-up call to them that this is not going to be as easy as they first thought. Sides are after them. They're the team to beat. And they've got that little added pressure sometimes of playing in front of your home crowds. The expectations are huge. That can play on the minds of some of the, I guess, less inexperienced players. That's a big thing. Pakistan, they've come somewhat under the radar. Shahid Afridi, I mean, I used to play against Afridi. That's how long he's been playing. Maybe it's his time. I like what he said the other day about embracing India and how the team is welcomed in India. I know he got some criticism, but I thought, as a captain, that was a very strategic and smart move. Maybe they're the side that could spring a surprise. South Africa won a massive trophy. Look, it is very hard to pick a side. I think right now I'd still say India are the favourites. The one team I'm looking forward to seeing play at this level is Afghanistan. I think they've made the biggest inroads in the shortest time. You look at where they were a couple of years ago to what they're doing now. I love the way they play the game. Their fielding is exceptional. They've got some nice quick bowlers. And they're a great example of sides outside of the main test playing nations that if you really want it enough and you're passionate, you can achieve great things. And I take my hat off to Afghanistan. They've been outstanding.
Interesting you mentioned Afghanistan because their coach Inzamam ul Haq was part of our panel during the Asia Cup and it just goes to show if you put the right men behind the team, you can get results, isn't it?
Well, you're right, and they got Manoj Prabhakar, who was a cagey customer, who you know, knew every trick in the book, how to get the most out of his talent, and that's what a team like Afghanistan need. Perhaps they're not the most skillful side, but can they find a way to find that little bit of an advantage? And they got two very good people in charge of that team. They just looked like they're well drilled. I was very impressed with the way they fielded it, and just said little things, they're backing up. You know, they're running between the wickets. I think they've made some good progress, and I like the way they play.
Right, there has been some criticism from the associate nations regarding the qualification process for the World T20, but Afghanistan, a prime example, as Steve said, of what teams on the sidelines can achieve, and this will be a great experience for them. We have Zahid joining us from Srinagar. Zahid, go ahead.
First of all, good afternoon to you, sir. I just want to ask you that do Pakistan have any chances to qualify for the semi-finals? And what change you want from last game for Pakistan so that they can just beat India?
Okay.
Look, I think Pakistan have got a good chance. I'm always amazed with Pakistan how many talented players come out of nowhere that you've never heard of before. I think they've got a really good pace attack. 2020 cricket is also about taking wickets. If you can make inroads in the opposition top order, you can have a huge impact on the game. They've got explosive batsmen. Afridi, maybe he sees this as his chance to leave a great legacy as a leader. They're not without a good chance. The next game is obviously crucial. India versus Pakistan, Eden Gardens doesn't get any bigger in world cricket. I mean, we think the Ashes is big Australia, India, but when you go to Eden Gardens and watch this game, it's a totally different level. And look, Pakistan have every right to go into that game with some confidence. They'll feel nice and relaxed. India will be under enormous pressure. This is a make or break game for India. I think if they can come through their next game, it'll set themselves up for the rest of the tournament. So this is a game I think most people are looking forward to watching. Pakistan have definitely got a very good chance.
Yes, so they haven't got a very good record though against India in World Cups. They've never beaten India in a world competition. So that's always been a monkey on their back, but records are meant to be broken.
Exactly.
We keep our fingers crossed in India, perhaps not this time. But we have Om Prakash joining us from Udaipur. Go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, Mr. Om Prakash, please switch off your television set and then speak to us.
Okay. Hello.
Yes,
Hello.
go ahead.
Hello, Steve.
Hi.
Welcome to India. Namaste.
Namaste.
And I want to ask you one thing. Means you are a legend of Australian cricket, and you are my all-time favorite cricketer from Australia. I want to ask you some few words from our legend, for Sachin Tendulkar. What do you want to say about Sachin Tendulkar? What was your experience when you used to play with against Sachin Tendulkar? So just tell me about something about Sachin Tendulkar.
About Tendulkar, my experience was I used to watch him bat a lot. And as a captain, that was a problem because we needed to get him out.
He loved batting against Australia as well.
He did. I mean, you know, he could adapt his game to any situation. I think a couple of innings stand out. I think he got back-to-back 140s in Sharjah, which were probably the two best one-day innings I've ever seen played. And then how he was able to adapt his game in Sydney in my last Test match when he was having problems playing his cover drive. And he said in that Sydney Test he would refuse to play a cover drive. We thought eventually he would play one, but 242 runs later, he didn't play one, and he still batted for like 6 or 7 hours. So that was how good a player he was, that he could change his game instantly overnight and still be successful. But a bit like Virat Kohli, he embraced the fact that there was 1.2 billion Indians wanting him to do well. When he walked out to bat, it didn't seem an added burden. It seemed like it's something that spurred him on. And he also has that. Both those players have that insatiable appetite for scoring runs. They love batting, they like scoring a lot of runs, they love scoring centuries, and they have enormous pride in representing India, which is a great thing.
Sachin Tendulkar is on India today as well during this World T20. Yesterday you heard him previewing the India-Pakistan clash and giving some tips on how to face Mohammad Amir. He gave some tips to the Indian team for that, and today we'll have the next installment of that chat with Sachin as well. Kshitij is joining us from Delhi. Go ahead.
Hi Steve, good afternoon. Consider myself lucky because getting a chance to talk to you for the second time today. I guess my question was misunderstood earlier. What I meant to ask was, who are the best spinners in the current Australian side? Because considering that the Indian pitches are primarily being dominated by the spin bowling, who do you think are the best spinners in the Australian side?
The best spinners in the Australian side.
Well, we picked our spinners. We got Adam Zampa, who's done very well. Steve Smith has full confidence in what he can do. He's a relatively inexperienced player. He did very well in the Big Bash last year. He seems pretty cool under pressure. He has good variation. He knows how to bowl to his fields, which is a good thing. But he's obviously untested in these conditions at this level. So there's got to be a few question marks there. Aston Agar, a really exciting young talent, not only with the ball, he's an excellent batsman as well. And we saw that when he got 98 on his test debut. Again, he hasn't had a lot of experience, even in T20 cricket.
Yeah.
And then you got Glenn Maxwell, who hasn't done well in IPL as a bowler, but he's very capable. His overall T20 record is excellent. He can do the job, but there are question marks over Australia's spin bowling. But having said that, it's a great opportunity for these guys to make a name for themselves. You know, what better place to do it? The T20 World Cup, when other sides perhaps don't expect them to be the match-winning bowlers. You saw what happened to New Zealand the other night. Every preview of that game said New Zealand's weakness would be their spin bowling. They ended up taking 9 wickets. So that is would give our bowlers some confidence that they can do the same sort of thing if the pitches are turning.
Absolutely. We have our next caller, Rahul, joining us from Thane. Go ahead.
Hey, hi. Good afternoon, Steve. It's an honor, of course, talking to you. I have one question to you, a bit tricky. Well, no one has seen Don Bradman's invincibility, but I have definitely seen Clive Lloyd of 80s and, of course, a certain Steve Waugh of 90s. Now, my question to you is, if, hypothetically, there were 5 test matches played in Australia with Steve Waugh versus Clive Lloyd and 5 test matches in West Indies, Steve Waugh versus Clive Lloyd, at their peak, whom do you think would win? I know it's tricky, but what do you think?
Right. So, effectively, the question is that if you were to play against Clive Lloyd in Australia 5 test matches and you and Clive Lloyd in West Indies 5 test matches, what would the result be?
Wow, that's a difficult question. I don't know the answer to that. What I would say is that I know my side would have been capable of competing against anyone, and I would have backed my side to win. I'm sure Clive Lloyd would say exactly the same thing back. I think the one factor that may have influenced that result is if we were playing without helmets. That would make it a little bit tougher for us against 4 bowlers bowling 90 plus miles an hour without helmets. That would really test someone's technique out and whether our batsmen would play hook shots. On the other side of the coin, we had obviously Shane Warne bowling fantastic leg spin. That would have tested out the technique of the West Indies batsmen. I think we're both great fielding sides. We both believed in our abilities. We had incredible records. Let's just say we would win in Australia and the West Indies would win in the West Indies.
Okay, fair enough. We'll leave it at that. We have our last caller on the show. Dennis is joining us from Chennai. Go ahead. Dennis, if you can hear me, go ahead.
Dennis, not there.
Okay, I don't think we have him yet on the line, but let me throw the final question to you, Steve.
Yes.
In your time, what was the one thing that was absolutely necessary for a captain to do to get the best out of his team?
I think in these big tournaments, the number one thing is to stay calm under pressure, because a lot of time your emotions are boiling over, something has just gone wrong, someone's dropped a catch or someone's bowled a bad spell, or the batsmen are playing wrong shots. Deep down you're thinking, why did that player do that? But you can't give off that vibe. You've got to stay positive, upbeat the whole time. You've got to stay relaxed, calm and composed. And there's going to be plenty of pressure situations. T20 is, everything's condensed, it's intensified. and your leader has got to stay calm under pressure, but also think clearly under pressure and be able to innovate, to improvise when things need to change, because you haven't got 1 or 2 overs to contemplate it and think maybe I should change it. You've got to do it instantly. So you've got to rely on your gut instinct, not so much always the game plan, but how can I do something now that can influence the outcome of the game?
On that benchmark, MS Dhoni is pretty good, isn't it? Both these qualities he seems to have, isn't it?
He does. He's a very clear thinker, and he never seems to get ruffled. I mean, that's one thing. He's always composed. Sometimes you feel like he's half asleep, but that's his natural way. And that's a great thing, because he does relax the players around him.
Absolutely. That's what even the 2007 World T20 winning squad told me in an exclusive interview, that the one thing that they really liked about MS Dhoni, who was a novice captain at that time, was that he never put any pressure on his players, and his facial expressions never really gave away anything. You know, when there were misfieldings or the 4 of a bowler wide of the first ball of the over. So in that sense, that is one of his biggest strengths. Steve, thanks a lot for joining us. Your debut has been absolutely sensational. You scored a ton on your debut, let's say that.
Thank you very much.
And Steve will be joining us again in the evening at 7 p.m. on our second special of the Slog Fest World T20. We'll also be joined by former India captain Saurav Ganguly. So that team is going to work really well, isn't it?
Looking forward to it.
Saurav.
Thank you.
All right. With that, it's a wrap on this edition. Thanks a lot for watching, and keep watching India Today.
Incident, a promising young kabaddi player was shot dead on the streets of Rohtak in Haryana. What's truly alarming is that the fatal shooting was caught on camera on Tuesday afternoon. Kabaddi player Sukhwinder Singh
of living a quiet, happy, boring life, so I decided to get married, and my wife says welcome to hell, boy. But the episode ain't that bad. It's just about all right, above average.